Let's talk to Labour's Trade Minister Chris Bryant. He's here this morning with some plans to reduce vet bills as well. Chris, good morning to you.
Good morning, Stig and Kate, my two favourite journalists.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
I'm sure you say that to everyone.
Well, at least on this programme.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
This programme.
I'm not going to listen to the rest of the morning round you're about to do to see how you introduce that. Labour is not standing in Clacton. Would you encourage Labour voters to vote for Count Binface? There's a semi-serious point we're sort of edging to. If there are sort of, I know there are other people standing, but Count Binface is kind of standing as a sort of piece of performance art. If you're a Labour voter in Clacton, should they, on this occasion, vote Count Binface?
Look, if I lived there, I don't think I'd vote. The whole thing is a complete and utter nonsense. It's a ludicrous attempt. He had a hissy fit, basically, didn't he? He's got very, very thin skin, has Nigel Farage. And look, why are we in this mess? It's because Nigel Farage took £5 million, didn't declare it. There's a row about whether he should have declared it. It's not my job to tell the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards what to do, but he's already investigating that issue. And I know lots of people may think, does it really matter whether somebody's registered or something or not? I used to be chair of the Committee on Standards, as you know, when in all that period through Boris Johnson and so on. And the one thing I'd say is there's been a rule in place since 1695 that no MP can lobby on behalf of a paid company. In other words, somebody can't pay you to lobby somebody. So you can't approach ministers, you can't approach officials on the basis of a personal private interest. And this is the nub, because yesterday Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England, confirmed what I think we sort of already knew, which was that Farage had been directly lobbying him about cryptocurrencies, trying to get the Bank of England, and they are, I would argue, are officials, lobbying them, using his position as an MP to lobby them on behalf of Harborne, the man who'd given him the £5 million. Now that is a much, much more serious offence. It's what, in the end, sent Owen Paterson out of Parliament because, of course, do you want MPs, when they stand up in Parliament and when they're doing their business as an MP, you want to know that they're standing up for the public interest, not for some private interest.
Investigations are ongoing. He obviously denies he's done anything wrong. But there's a precedent here I just wanted to ask you about, Chris Bryant. In America, when the state in its various forms investigated Donald Trump, the net effect seen by many was to make him more popular and get him elected. They used the phrase lawfare being used against him. Are you worried this could happen with Nigel Farage, that the more people, what he would call the establishment, investigates him, criticises him, condemns him, suspends him, all of those things, it actually makes him more popular, not less popular?
Well, number one, I don't buy this thing that he's the people versus the establishment. I mean, you know, he's in hock with multi-billionaires around the world. He went to a very exclusive private school. He spent his time working in the city. I mean, he is the establishment writ large. But more importantly, we have a very robust, independent and fair system for investigating these things in the House of Commons. I know, in the end, of course, it did for Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson was found to have lied to the House of Commons. It did for Owen Paterson because he'd taken money and then lobbied government officials on behalf of those companies who were paying him just £100,000 a year, not £5 million, and we have a robust system with an appeal process which is chaired by a High Court judge. So I would just say to anybody, incidentally, it's not for me to decide what the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards should investigate. I wonder whether Nigel might have been given some very bad legal advice to the effect that if he resigned now, then the investigation would be suspended and end. Actually, the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, if you look at his website, it says that he's still investigating Andrew Gwynn, who's no longer an MP and hasn't been an MP for some time. So there's no reason why an investigation can't continue. And indeed, some of the news stories that are coming in may indeed add to that. But look, I think most ordinary people go, It's that Mrs. Merton test. What was it first attracted you to the multimillionaire? And hanging out with all these people, taking vast, really serious amounts of money, and then not being able to explain it, getting very tetchy when people ask you questions about it. This is proper scrutiny. And I think that, and now we're engaged in, the worst farce without many jokes in it for the next 5 weeks.
Can I ask about the House of Lords? Because before you were elected, your party promised to abolish the House of Lords. The Times reports today...
No, we didn't.
Well, Keir Starmer did in 2022. He said, I'm going to abolish the House of Lords. He did.
Well, I think it's abolish and replace.
He said he called the system indefensible. He said he said the Tories were filling it with cronies and lackeys, and he said the system had to be abolished. That's what Keir Starmer said in 2022. He's now going to put in 19 new Labour peers, according to the Times today. Even by the standards of modern politics, Chris Bryant, this is outstandingly cynical. Labour wants to get rid of it. Instead, you're filling it with your own mates, which is precisely the thing you criticise the Tories for doing. How can that possibly be justifiable to have the House of Lords being expanded and expanded?
Well, I sort of agree with you in one sense that the very first amendment or early day motion that I tabled when I was an MP 25 years ago said that the House of Lords should be wholly or substantially elected. And I think that if you're going to have a second chamber, which I think we should, because you need to make sure that the laws we take through are ones that actually work and are sensible and go through a proper revising process, then at least the majority of those should be elected. It's really difficult to get to that point because the House of Lords have to vote, under our system, have to vote for their own reform. And so now we've got this problem where Labour doesn't even constitute, I think, a third of the seats in the House of Lords. We've got a large majority in the House of Commons. We've seen lots of bills being delayed in the House of Lords. I think the whole system does need reform. I personally would go to some form of election, a bit of a mixed kind of election in it, but that's a process that is bound to take several years, if not.
I guess the reason I'm asking you, because I understand the point you're making. I think you want this to happen, but it's a question of trust. This Starmer called the system indefensible. He said filling it with cronies and lackeys is indefensible. He's so far in 2 years added 114 new Labour peers. He wants to add another 19. Some of them are his mates. We all know some of the problems with some of them who turned out to have questionable backgrounds. Is it not outrageous to say that as a function of a political philosophy you want to get rid of an institution and then do exactly the same thing you've criticised others for doing? It's a question of trust here, Chris.
Stig, I fully understand the point you're making. I think the difficulty is you just got to face reality, which is week in, week out, we have to get legislation that we've committed to in the general election through not just the House of Commons, where we have a large majority, but then through the House of Lords, where we don't even have a third of the seats.
Then don't pretend. I take that point, but then don't pretend you're going to do something about it. Don't say you're going to abolish it in 2022. Don't call it indefensible, because I'm talking about the Labour Party here under Keir Starmer. You know you're not going to change it.
Well, I think we are going to change it. Look, we're at the end of Keir Starmer's period. We'll see what Andy Burnham wants to do in the next phase. But all I'd say is the thing that we absolutely committed to in our manifesto was that we would get rid of the remaining hereditary peers. I think that was the right thing to do. I cannot understand why the 75th Earl of Clacton or whatever should still sit in the House of Lords solely by virtue of the fact that their great aunt.
But I can't see why a man who carried a bag for Keir Starmer, who subsequently was friends with a paedophile, is now in the House of Lords. I don't think that's a justifiable thing either.
I don't understand why Michelle Mone was ever put in the House of Lords. I don't understand why. I think is it Boris Johnson's. I can't remember. Anyway, look, I'm not in favour of the appointment process. So you're sort of having a go at the wrong person, I'm afraid, Stig.
I'm not having a go. It's just exploring the issue. I think it matters to some people. Let's talk about pets and vets.
It matters to me, actually.
Well, talk to your boss.
I do want to see
talk
reform.
to your new boss. Tell
been
Burnham to fix it.
I haven't had a specific conversation with Andy on this recently, but I have had many conversations with Andy about it over the years, and I know that the vast majority of the people in the Labour Party want to see a proper functioning constitution, and that means you've got to have a House of Commons which really represents people and does the job of looking after the communities they represent, and a second chamber that has a proper revising basis, but it should be on the basis of people voting for it, not appointment.
People do care about their pets, and I know this is one of the biggest consultations ever when people looked into the market around vets before. I think a decade ago, only 10% of vets' practices were owned by big firms. Now almost 60% are. Do you think the system has failed broadly?
Broadly speaking, yes, and we want to see reform. I mean, I know in my own patch down in South Wales, the number of people who come to me and they absolutely adore their dog or their cat or whatever it may be, but the the vets bills are absolutely disproportionate. Obviously, there's some evidence that prices are set very, very high because there's just so few players in the system, and that's. I've always been suspicious when any sector moves towards monopoly, and that's where sometimes the state has to intervene.
But you can't break it up, is the point. You can make them publish a price list, for example, but what you're not saying is you can't break up these monopolies.
Well, I think sometimes it depends how far it goes, obviously. But most of us like independent shops, don't we? But often we end up going to supermarkets where prices are set by on a much bigger scale. So all I'd say is my anxiety about the vet system in the UK, and I know quite a few vets, is that it's neither working for patients or members of the public who have pets, nor necessarily for the young vets themselves as they go into training, because they end up being in a situation where they're charging disproportionate prices and they're not actually seeing the money going into their own pockets.
You're a dog or a cat man, Chris Bryant?
Dog.
See,
my first dog was called Montserrat, which I thought was the poshest name imaginable, until I discovered that it's because my parents conceived me at Montserrat near Barcelona.
So your first family dog was named after the place you were conceived?
I know. We called her Monty. And then we had a dog called Didondo, who was a Welsh Terrier, obviously, and he was named Didondo because my brother couldn't say the name MacDonald. Don't ask me to explain any of that. I don't understand that.
Well,
and then I had a dog called Samuel Taylor Coleridge, because Coleridge was the only poet that I could find referring to dogs, who had a line in Christabel where he says, Sir Leoline the Baron Rich had a toothless mastiff bitch.
Well, Virginia Woolf once wrote a biography of a dog, so you could have gone in that direction. Chris, I feel we've entered a cheese dream here, so we better bring this to some sort of conclusion.
Sorry.
Good to speak to you.
Nice to see you.